can you really make yourself luckier? I mean, the definition of luck is that it's success or failure that appears to be down to chance rather than actions. And yet, I accept when it comes to luck, there are a lot of things that are out of our control. But I'm confident there are two things you can do to stack the odds in your favor. Make yourself luckier. And I'm going to explain them now. Something I always think about whenever anyone mentions luck is a TV show by Darren Brown. He looked at groups of people in an English town that considered themselves lucky and unlucky, and he found something significant. The people who considered themselves lucky generally seemed to be happier. They spoke about how they'd win things. Maybe not life-changing amounts, but the odd 50, 20, £100. Enough little pleasant surprises. Also reported that good things tended to happen to them. Now, those that consider themselves unlucky, as you'd expect, they said, well, good things don't usually happen to them. They never win anything to them, and they're not really given breaks. Now, this wasn't down to some magic cosmic force, because when he looked a little closer, he found something interesting. Generally, the people who considered themselves luckier, well, they took part, they entered competitions, they were open to opportunities. They'd adopted a growth mindset that's often very open and positive. This is in stark contrast to those who were unlucky. See, they had adopted a fixed mindset that's often very closed and negative. There's no point in entering that competition because the odds are high, you'll never win. And think about what happens when an opportunity comes along. There was one person in particular kept complaining that they were unlucky. He'd organised for him to be given a spoof competition entry. If he'd have just mailed it in, he'd have won a prize. I believe it was about £1,000, but guess what? He didn't, because he was unlucky that good things didn't happen to him and he never won. That should tell you something. So have a think. Have a think about how adopting a growth mindset could make you luckier. Another thing that comes to mind when people mention luck is one of my personal heroes, the Formula One driver Michael Schumacher. Now, he was phenomenally talented, phenomenally successful, and he did appear to be very lucky. You'd often see him leave the track and somehow rejoin. He'd make the right decisions in a race that helped him win. But again, when we really look at what was happening, it probably wasn't down to some magic cosmic force. You see, he put in the work. He didn't just rely on talent. When he arrived in Formula One, he set driver fitness levels to a whole new level. Before he arrived, team bosses would often have to factor in about a 20% drop-off in performance due to driver fatigue. Not with him. He was 100% throughout the whole race, and everyone else soon had to get to that point. You often hear people he worked with talk how he'd spend hours in the garage, working into the evening, just looking at sets of tyres, working out which one to put on at the right time. Again, that didn't just happen, that required hard work. And when he used to come back on the track after going off, well, he'd take time to inspect the track. He'd be out walking it, cycling it, looking at all those points, preparing. So what we can take away from this is that we shouldn't just rely on talent, shouldn't just rely on chance. Sometimes we've got to put in the work. We've got to make ourselves luckier. So you now have two things you can do to make yourself luckier. And before I go, I'd just like to leave you with two important quotes that I think really sum all this up perfectly. First quote is from the ice hockey player, Wayne Gretzky. And he says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Have a think about that. And then there's a great quote from the golfer, Gary Player. He says, the more I practice, the luckier I get. Again, have a think. Hope this helped. Hope this gets you thinking. And I hope you can do things now to make yourself luckier.